Hey, what's up? So in this video, I'm going to definitely prove that Swagg is not using a plugged in strike pack, right? Definitely not using a strike pack, but I'm going to show evidence that this controller is most likely not the same one he's using. Well, he is using this controller, but it's modded somehow. It's not exactly the same as what he's using in the tournament. So let's go back and forth and look at this. So what I did is so here's the video in case you want to see who made this, right? And I'm going to go to where he shows the clip. Here we go. So here's the controller he's using in the tournament. It's the same controller. You can see the white, you can see the red. So he's using his scuff controller, which already has built-in paddles. And I then took a screenshot of this by just holding down Windows Shift and S. And that brings this up, and you can just go like that. Bam, takes a picture, and then you can edit, paste that into your program like this. And all I did here was I just changed the color brightness a little bit. See how you can see the logo more here? I'm gonna do that live just so you don't think I'm making this up. I want to make it clear he's not using a strike pack. So let me show the evidence of that by doing this live for you guys really quickly. We're gonna mainly just turn up the brightness here. Let me see. I'm gonna zoom in here so I can see. I don't think we need to do the contrast really. If I do the contrast down, you can really see that logo right there. You can really see it's clearly a logo. There's something there. So let's just go a little bit here. Shadows, we'll add just a little bit of shadow, something like that. I think that's what I did, something about like that. So you can clearly see here that you have this logo here and this logo here. This is clearly not just reflections or something. This is a round logo. Anyway, we're viewing this controller from a slight angle like this, right? So we're seeing see how it looks oval like this. And if you look at his controller, see how his plastic is square, but notice it kind of pinches in from the side view. So if you kind of turned this to an angle to us, this right here would kind of look ovalish. So that's not a big deal. That's not a problem. But first, let's show evidence this is not a strike pack. If you look at a strike pack, you'll notice in here, just so we can see who's doing this video, Lethal Panda, you can see that the way the plug, and this is true of all strike packs, even the ones for Xbox controllers, Xbox One, Xbox 360, but we're pretty sure this can't be an Xbox One because Xbox lights are green, not blue for their strike packs. But for all the strike packs, one thing you'll notice is, and you can look all the strike packs up for sale, the plug, the power plug that powers on the strike pack plugs into the bottom, right? And it's actually a little bit below the light, and you can actually see this from different angles. Is a better picture. You can see it's below. Notice also the lights on the strike pack are kind of round, like mine are totally round. By the way, strike packs are pieces of shit. They break like super fast. We bought them just for the paddles, and they broke in like 3 or 4 months. So they're poop. Get the official Sony paddles, right? They don't have any mods built into them. You can't be accused of cheating, and they're awesome. They feel good and they last a long time. She's had it working for like a year or more now, and it's still working great. Anyway, just a quick side note. One thing you'll notice, though, like I said, is the plug is below the power light, right? It's also way below PlayStation, the actual controller's light. See how below it is? And if you look at here for the tournament, look, it almost looks like it's above this light, right? Almost like from this angle, almost looks like it's kind of cutting it off. It's actually not, but it's parallel with the light, right? Notice how dim the light is too. The light is super dim compared to like what you'd see. And this is like, look all the blue it adds, even if it's dark around it. Anyway, so, and notice these lights are kind of, if anything, they kind of appear oval this way. They don't appear square, but you'll see the light here is square. Also, notice all this real estate. See where his finger is right here? There's all this plastic down here below the light. See all this plastic down here? Right? That is true for a strike pack. It has all this extra plastic down here. It doesn't have these logos. None of them do. You can try to go find all of them. None of them have these logos on it. Also, these could just be stickers that someone put on it, but I doubt it. Either way, where his finger is, this is where the plug should plug in. He's covering this plug that's powering this thing. If it was a strike pack, would be plugged in here, right? As you can see, that's where it'd be plugged in, right? A little bit below the light. But it's not plugged in there. And if you notice, his plugs in, his power plug is parallel with his light, right? Exactly what we see here. parallel with the light. But there's some oddities. So I think that proves he's not using a strike pack, right? Whatever, if there's something there, it's definitely not the strike pack because it just doesn't match. Also, the strike pack is black and they don't come in colors, but this, I mean, this could just be the light and the dark that's making all this look so blue and saturated. Because you see, we know this plug is not blue, but look at it, kind of looks blue. We know this big power button up here is not blue, but look, part of it looks blue. But look how, if you go way back here, away from this light, look how, and this actually curves away from the light. I don't know. I doubt all this would still look blue because right next to it we have a black button. Notice the black button is black. It doesn't have any blue on it. Just like you see how this turns black really fast because it's getting far away from the light. Look how far away and at an angle this is the light and this is still blue. I would argue that whatever this is actually blue in real life, not black. But his controller, his explanation that he gives in this video, you can watch him, he plays part of his explanation. That is part of Swagg's explanation. He says, I'm using my scuff controller, which he is definitely using, but does it have something plugged into it is the question. And he says, everything's the same. He said, this is exactly what I'm using in the tournament, but it doesn't seem that's clear to me. So let's go ahead and look at that now to see if it's definitely the same thing as using. But before we do that, I just want to make some things clear. There's very little benefit of using a strike pack other than just for its paddles. And he already has paddles on his scuff controller, so it doesn't make any sense he'd want to use the paddles. Therefore, if he's using it, he'd want to use the, the mod benefits. But the mod benefits are very little. And I'm going to just show some very simple logic that makes no sense he would even take this chance with it, just to use the mods built into it. The only mods it gives you that are beneficial is anti-recoil. That's it. So you don't have to use your right thumbstick to control the recoil of the gun. That's about the only benefit it has. The problem is you have to plug in this thing into your controller, and then he already has paddles on his controller that might interfere because two things are his controller is already built to use these extra buttons, these paddles, which is modified inside the controller. The scuff controller already has this mod inside of it to make sure these extra buttons are working. It basically just connects those buttons to the face buttons, to like your X or whatever, like X and I can't remember the two buttons it replaces, but it replaces two of them. Like I think your X and your circle, whatever this one is for, like jump and ducking or square ducking. I can't remember. I don't really play those games anymore with controller, but I use mouse and keyboard on a computer. But anyway, yeah. So it basically just adds two extra buttons that would push those buttons down internally inside the controller. So it is actually slightly modified. Anyway. The important thing is it doesn't make a lot of sense that he would be using a strike pack just to have the benefit of anti-recoil. Because like I said, the rapid fire doesn't make sense. You use rapid fire because it doesn't make any of the guns shoot faster than they would if you just hold a button down. It's only beneficial on guns that are semi-automatic. And even if you set a gun to semi-automatic and then rapid fire, it doesn't make it shoot faster. It's literally the same speed. And if you set it for something like the FAL actually has a pretty slow fire speed. So if you have rapid fire on it, it's not going to make it shoot any faster than if you were just pushing the button. And the speed it shoots is quite slow anyway, and it's kind of harder to control that way. So it's actually better to use a single fire. I know because I've tried it with the strike pack, and it's just not very good. Because I was just curious, like how much is the anti-recoil? The anti-recoil actually works pretty good. It's not perfect, but it works pretty damn good. And it makes it to where you don't have to think about, the fact that you're pulling down the stick and aiming. You just aim, but after a while that becomes second nature anyway. Especially with the mouse and keyboard, you just pull the mouse down at a certain speed, and after a while that becomes second nature. You don't even think about doing it anymore. So I don't know. Someone that plays for that long and that kind of, it doesn't make a lot of sense that once you have it as second nature that you would need that, anti-recoil anyways. Besides, even if you wanted anti-recoil, you would use something like Chronos Zen or Chronos Max. There's more options, and it doesn't have to be plugged into your controller. It's plugged into the console. So I don't know why someone would favor a strike pack over the Chronos Zen or Chronos Max when the Chronos Zen and Max are better. Swagg definitely has the money to afford that difference. Also, Swagg has the kind of money that he can afford to keep buying these shitty fucking scuff controllers that break all the time. The paddle buttons break or something else breaks on it. And if he has the kind of money, and you can tell he constantly gets new controllers all the time, right? Because he always has these new designs and stuff. So if he can afford to keep buying these really expensive controllers, he can easily afford to have it modified, right? he can pay someone to modify the inside of his controller, to add a little chip inside the controller, because all he needs is anti-recoil. If he's going to use any cheats out of them, that's the only cheat he's going to use, is the anti-recoil cheat. And he would just have a tiny little chip that's modified inside the controller itself, and then he can just have it programmed to where he hits a certain button combination, and bam, he has the anti-cheat activated. Now, it might be that for some reason that anti-cheat chip inside there needs power to run, like they can't figure out how to get it to use the internal power, so it won't work wirelessly, so he has to have a plug plugged in, which is interesting because you can see in the tournament, he has a plug plugged in. He has his controller plugged in. Now, there's an easy argument for that. One can say, well, you get slightly better response time if your controller is plugged in, or it could be a tournament rules. You have to have your controller plugged in. Either way, though, if you had some internal chip built in, you'd want to have the plug plugged in most likely anyway, because it might not work otherwise. Like the Scuff, it has to have the controller plugged in. Not the Scuff, even the Strike Pack. Okay, but anyway, I've already ruled out this is not a Strike Pack. I think that's clear. He's not using a Strike Pack, right? This light here looks more squarish, whereas the Strike Pack looks, it looks round because it is round. But even here you can see, like if you view it from different times, you can see there that it has, a certain shape to it that isn't the shape you're seeing on what he has. Like it never looks like a square. But you can still say, well, maybe it appeared that way. Either way, you can see that his actual controller is a long rectangle, right? So now I'm going to rule out. So I think I've already ruled out that he's not using a Strike Pack. It doesn't fit, especially where the power cord plugs in. The power cord is below the lights, and whatever he's using is equal to the lights, just like his controller, just like a Scuff controller. But what is interesting is if you look at the Scuff controller, you have this light right here, and it's vertical. Notice it's a vertical rectangle. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Vertical rectangle. Whereas whatever he's using at the tournament doesn't have a vertical rectangle, right? That's clear. That's not a vertical rectangle. It might be a circle like in the Strike Pack, and then the blurriness and stuff is making it look square. But notice this thing over here looks round. So I'm not going to go based on that, but it's clearly not a vertical rectangle. Like I don't think there's in any world a vertical rectangle light like on his Scuff would look like this. So that's one thing that doesn't match. Now here's the center. You have to go with this triangle, right? You have to go, the center would be right there, because remember, perspective changes things for shorten, etc. So you have this center, and if you go from there as the center, and you offset like this, that distance looks about the same. Because look, if you go to the center, you can't really see because the cord's blocking the center, but it's right about there. So you go from there to there, that's about the same distance. So the light's in about the same spot. A lot of people are saying that his light looks like it's way over here or something, but it's not. Like the light is pretty close to either one. And also, you can't see any indication of the other lights that would be here, right? There's supposed to be 4 of the lights here, or 3 or 4, depends, I think. Let me see, mine has 4. I think maybe some of them might only come with 3. Either way, those other lights aren't present there, and also the plug would be below the lights, not equal with it like this. But you don't see no indication of those other lights, so just definitely not a Scuff. But anyway, some difference between his controller. I don't think the light distance is really a good argument because it seems to be the same distance for me. But notice this missing gap right here, plastic, right? This missing space. It's kind of like a rectangle missing space. This is where he says he takes off his upper. So in a Scuff controller, he removes his upper paddles, and that leaves this empty space here of plastic. Notice also, well, first let's do this. So notice that's right next to the light. Get close here. That's right next to the light. You have this missing piece, almost like a missing tooth, right? There's this missing, you can also see it over here, this missing space here. Well, let's look at the controller he's using in the tournament. There is no missing space next to the light. Notice it's all this actual plastic here, right? You can see all the plastic there. Right? There's a slight weird dent right here. You can kind of see that shape, but that's not the dent we see on his Scuff controller. Right? One, this is a really long dent. It's at an angle to the thing. It's not up and down. And it's not right. And notice his dent should be right here, right next to the light. We should see empty space right here next to the light, like this. We don't see the empty space right next to the light. Also, you can see there's no real estate underneath the light right here. See this? There's no extra plastic down here. Here, look at all this extra plastic. All that extra plastic right there, plus a logo and a logo, right? So there's some sort of logo right here. Like I said, his finger's covering where the Strike Pack would actually plug in, so it's not a Strike Pack. But it's all this extra plastic. Also, Strike Pack doesn't have these logos, like I said. And also, hold on, let me look at my strike pack. I want to see something. It also doesn't have any sort of indent like that. Yeah, the shape's totally different as well. You can see like the shape here, and if you look at a strike pack, you can look at his. The shape's totally different. You have um, this kind of shape right here, and then kind of indented behind. There's this extra piece of plastic right here. And also notice that it's totally black. It'd be really hard for this color to look blue at all, like it looks in see how blue all that looks. Again, this could be because it's low lighting and the light here is blue and it's kind of fading over to it, but just, I don't know. This is curving away from the light. All this right here shouldn't be blue. This should appear black. Just like on this plug part, see how part of the plug looks blue, but it's not this blue. And then as it fades really fast, see how it fades to black really quickly because the light is getting far away. And here, this is curving around at a corner. This up here is curving up at a corner. Yeah, look how blue it all is still. So I have a feeling that whatever this is partly blue. I don't know, but maybe not. Doesn't really matter. It's definitely not the same thing. Like I said, look all that real estate below it, and you don't have that kind of real estate. Oops. You don't have that kind of real estate. Well, you do have it on a strike back. See all the real estate below, but it's a different shape. So it doesn't match the shape either. The shape doesn't match. But notice you don't have any of this extra. There's nothing extra down here. All right, see where his fingers are? That's where his fingers are in the other video. See his fingers are there still? But notice that it's setting on a piece of plastic here. On his controller, there's nothing to set on, so it's underneath. It's just his fingers are just pressed underneath because there's no plastic here to set them on, like underneath here. But anyway, so that doesn't match. And then also another thing that doesn't match is see this right here. See this thing that comes out, right? See it's flat here, and then it bubbles out at us. See that? Bubbles out at us. There's the light side and the dark side because the light's kind of coming from the right, and it kind of bubbles out like this. So there's this bubbling piece of plastic, almost like a cylinder, half cylinder stuck onto this flat piece here. Well, that's nowhere to be found in the controller he's using here. Look at, it's the same controller, see red and white, same scuff controller, but something's plugged in here. Because notice there's nothing like that here. There's nothing that would have right next to the light. There should be like a kind of a slightly lighter light on this side, right? And darker on this side, but there's no indication here. You can actually kind of see indication of some, see this almost looks like a line right here? Because this part right here is a slightly different shape. It kind of goes like this and it kind of indents down, which is very similar to the strike pack, by the way. Let me look at my strike pack again. Yeah, it's very similar to the strike pack. It has that kind of like where that line would be kind of, and it's actually, yeah, but the plug isn't, the plug would be below though. It'd be down here, right? Because the plug is here and then that line would be, it's not straight, it'd be at an angle. Like the strike pack would have this line, but the line goes like this and would end right here, then right here would be the plug. That's like this, not a strike pack. Now, is it possible he had some custom-made device that he can plug into his controller? That's possible. He has some custom-made device plugged into his controller. But why would he take the chance, knowing that sometimes he gets excited and this scenario could happen? Why would he take the chance of plugging something in his controller? And why plug something in his controller when it's just easier to have something plugged into the console? And if he's trying to hide it, right? If he doesn't care to hide it, then he wouldn't plug it into his controller. That can still be visible to other people there at the thing. They might, inspect the controller at some point randomly. So that doesn't make any sense that he would cheat that way. And if he doesn't care about it really being discovered, then why not just plug a Chronos in into the actual system, which he can unplug if they come over? Or better yet, like I said, why wouldn't he just built it into the controller? He has the kind of money. It's not that expensive to hire someone to just build this hack inside the controller, right? There's people all over eBay and stuff like that you can hire to build custom controllers for you, right? You don't have to go buy a scuff. If you want extra buttons on your controller, they can do all that for you, right? And then anyway, it's cheaper. They can just do it for you and they give you custom buttons, custom colors. There's all kinds of like independent people that do a very good job at it. And yeah, it's probably going to last you a lot longer than a scuff controller, Evo controller, because those guys are hiring a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing because they don't have the manpower, right? They can't pump out controllers fast enough, so they have to constantly hire noobs that don't know really what they're doing and try to train them to do it right, and then they don't do it right because they don't give a fuck because it's not their company, right? So if you just have a one-man company that is, doing custom controllers, he cares about his business because he knows that's his business, right? So he wants to do the best job possible. And so if you want a good controller, that's the way to go. But anyway, it wouldn't be that hard to hire someone to modify your scuff controller for you. So two things are true then. One thing that's true, how much time have I gone? It's about the same amount of time as I did before. One thing is true is that he doesn't he's not using a strike pack of any sort, at least none that you can buy in the market. Another thing that's true is he's not using a stock scuff controller. This is not his stock. This shape does not match his scuff controller, right? For all the reasons I already stated. So there's something there, and it doesn't match his custom scuff controller. This means he's lying to us when he says, if you watch this part of this video here at this time, what he's explaining here, that, oh, this is just my standard scuff controller. It's exactly the same. I'm using the exact same thing. That's not true. He's not using the same thing. There's something that doesn't match this. Now, or I can say it's highly improbable that he's using the same thing, because there's just too many things that don't match. I mean, where the distance of the light matches, the shape of the light doesn't, though. The distance matches, the shape doesn't. The fact that the power plug is parallel to light matches, because you can see here it's parallel. That doesn't match the scuff, though, but it does match what he's using there. This little indication, right? This little indent, right? Or not indent, but missing piece of plastic doesn't match because there's nothing there. Look at, we should see black right here, a missing hole. That's not there. We see there's this extra real estate down here, right? This extra plastic that's not here, but is here. See all this extra plastic beneath the plug? See the plug right here? His thumb is touching the underside. There's no extra plastic here to be touching, right? That is vertical plastic coming straight down, not the underside. And the logos aren't there, right? We can see here, logo here, logo. He says he's using the exact same thing. Well, it can't be, because where are these two stickers at, right? Or logos. I don't know if these are printed on or these are stickers. Either way, this is some sort of word, some sort of letters, and this is some sort of round thing, probably some sort of round logo type thing. And this is not present on his thing. If anyone can find anything you plug into the controller that has these two, let me know. That'd be interesting to see. Some other type of product that might plug into a controller that might have these on there. And then just the logic of it doesn't make sense. Like, if you're going to cheat, why not just put it into the thing? So I don't know why he'd lie and why he'd have something plugged in his controller, but it doesn't seem to match. So yeah. Anyway, what do you guys think? Leave comments for those very few people that ever watch this video.